to fight poverty through industry production.
Yes.
That's our approach.
Would you be ready to impose one?
No, never impose. Can I respond, please? There we go. First of all, our relationship with the United States has changed everything. So, imports from the United States and geography, as Mr. Poirier has said, around pipelines, those are problems. Those are national security problems for us, and we need to act. That's the first point. Second, on March 21st, there was a meeting of the premiers. All the premiers were here in Ottawa, and we sat down and we agreed. All the premiers signed an agreement to have an energy corridor that would cover oil, natural gas, clean energy, and critical minerals. And with that, and with a process with Indigenous leaders, we can and we could have a solution to this problem. And that's an example of leadership. That's an example of bringing leaders together to meet a national goal. We need to do more than that over this.
Wait.
Another day in paradise.
Close.
Hardpoint locked down.
Force projects
We
of
take
this.
control.
It's a question
I have
of
another question about the environment. Here's the question. You have said that you are a pragmatic person. Do you agree that it is not pragmatic to completely subsidize oil companies? No, that's not pragmatic at all. Would you agree?
well, I agree with that principle.
Okay, then will you commit to stopping these companies?
Absolutely.
Muscles at the hardpoint.
That's why you need New Democrats. Look at that.
It's not a new.
Why you need New Democrats.
Like all other Canadian leaders, that's like in English.
Hardpoint
That was, if
identified.
necessary, we would use the executive emergency
Hardpoint is
powers.
secure.
You said it.
Yes.
I heard it again yesterday. We would force pipelines through Canada and
Hardpoint
through
active.
Quebec. After
No,
2 days
hardpoint
after
locked
that, Mr. Roy,
That's not it. That's not it at all.
please be nice, we're almost friends. But then you said to me, well, I would never like to
Get
force
to the
this.
hardpoint.
It's not
Look
good
at
things.
this. No.
Let's stop this. It's social acceptability that stopped this pipeline
Hardpoint
because
is
people
secure.
said no.
Please reply.
It's the use of emergency powers for the federal government. That's for federal approval. But there also has to be approval, for example, here in Quebec. There has to be approval from the provinces and the support of
He's
Indigenous
such a
people.
liar.
This is Canada. That's how Canada works. We are starting to see cooperation agreements
Enemy UAV inbound.
provinces to have
Hardpoint located.
project one evaluation, and that's going to accelerate the approval of major projects.
Negotiators said that I have a greater chance of signing the Canadian Constitution than approving a pipeline. But how could you really paint yourself in such a corner and say never ever? If our relationship with the U.S. gets
Muscles at the
worse,
hardpoint.
the pipeline goes to the United States, if our ports become trickier in terms of imports, what would you do? What would
Mr.
you
Trump's
play your hands?
threat is a very serious one.
Eyes on.
But he won't self-destruct the American economy. Americans,
Hardpoint is secure.
that Canadian road is in their backyard. There's no rule that stops oil from being built or circulating from Quebec. Quebec is
Oh, for fuck's sake.
environmental rules. So there are certain elements that you're given from him.
Hardpoint identified.
It's not because Quebec is the best place in the world to develop a green super energy market because Artemis emission.
Muscles at the
You
hard
invest in oil that doesn't have economic benefits for Quebec. We still pay more than
Quick comments. You are slightly behind in terms of the traveling that does mean. We're talking about the environment and public transit as well. So the third link, would you fund this or the tramway? One or the other? One or the other? Oh,
For the sexy tramway, we support public transit. We're against projects that are bad for the environment.
so you're against the third link.
Exactly, we are against the third link. We support tramway. One solution to address the climate crisis. Public authorities needs to invest
That's under
heavily
UAV
in public
above.
transit. This would
Damn
help
it, we lost the
municipalities
lead.
help. This would help
Hardpoint
provinces
located.
work together with them and use transfers to provide more funding for these projects and the projects we need. They would create good jobs while
Hardpoint is
at the same time public authorities
Capture
should
the hardpoint.
Tramway or third link? Both? Or just the third link?
Just the third link. You have to make choices. And I
Hostile UAV established overhead.
the other parties are against the third link.
Hardpoint
And
locked
they
down.
want to ban gas-powered cars. That's not practical. In the regions of our country, you need a truck, you need a car in order to live in regional areas. So I'm going to reverse that. You keep your trucks. We will build highways and bridges
TACOM,
so that
get a
you
UAV in the air.
can live
Hardpoint is
a
secure.
good life.
Okay. Both projects?
The Quebec government wants the
Hardpoint
tramway.
is in.
The city of Quebec City, rather, wants the tramway. The federal government is giving the money required to the provincial government for the tramway. We don't know what the link looks like. We don't know what's going to go under, over. We don't know what the content going to be.
You're supposed to figure things out.
Hostiles
Just
on the hardpoint.
remind me of my
Hardpoint locked down.
Tramway, yes, because there is a project that's underway. We
Tackle,
support it,
deploy
and
counter
as Mr.
UAV.
Patrick said, there is a
Capture the
project right
hardpoint.
now for the third link.
Get a UAV on grid.
But I think the third link will be
Right.
I don't have a lot of time left, but I'll have one more question. Do we have to speed up the development of nuclear power
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And for a couple of reasons.
across Quebec, in Ontario?
Well, yeah.
Hardpoint is secure. Hardpoint
That,
located.
Quebec and the provinces will make. But we have a major advantage here in Canada. We have uranium.
Watch
We
out!
have
Hardpoint is active.
big nuclear
Hostiles have
companies
the
like
hardpoint.
Westinghouse, Candu, and others. And we have technology in small modular reactors, so it's a great opportunity.
I understand there are wells in the countries in the world that need nuclear energy. I don't think Canada needs nuclear energy. Quebec doesn't want to. I'm not going to interfere in Canadian energy.
Well, they could be.
But Quebec is just nuclear energy,
Fuck me.
and also the one that managed the closure of the Johnson plant.
But we're not going to reopen it.
As a national project,
What the fuck's going
I
on
figure
out
out
there? Tighten up
and
and
each
show
one
some
energy
pride.
Whatever.
connect Quebec with Manitoba and BC to transport clean energy.
Hardpoint is
Not so much in favor of nuclear energy, I support renewable energy more.
Hardpoint locked down.
That's one of the best sources of electricity. It provides 60% of the electricity in Ontario. Unfortunately, bureaucracy slows down
Enemy UAV
construction
inbound.
without adding any safety. So I would take the politicians off the Nuclear Safety Commission and allow scientists to do the work
Hardpoint is
so
secure.
that we can add that source of energy to the portfolio.
This is the first time I've heard you call the space subject.
Immigration. Next thing, immigration.
All right, immigration. Yeah, let's go. Now it's gonna get fun.
With
Launch your
immigration,
UAV.
Yeah.
are linked to Donald Trump. It's hard to
To
do
Donald
these
Trump.
days. I'd like to say
Immigration's
but
linked to
job.
Donald Trump. What?
You have to be able to keep
How
our
dumb are these people?
Hardpoint located.
Answering the CBC reporter.
arriving and they don't have work.
What does Trump have to do with our immigration crisis?
Why not? Why not open the market up to trafficking? Do you think we should
Hardpoint is active.
let in anyone who wants to come?
Hostiles have captured the hardpoint.
In the United States, there's one rule. In Canada, there's another. I think everyone should follow the rules. That's all rules. that over 500,000 patients have were now being
Hardpoint locked down.
For protection. I'll show you the numbers here. This is the number of people crossing the border and send them out to the
Trump speaking out his regret. Now they want to.
in the first half of April. That's
Why
more
do we
than
have to
March,
be
February, or
The
January.
world's
You can
most
see the numbers
terrorist
are growing.
state.
Simple question. You got 35 seconds each. Would you expect people to surrender or not?
Well,
Here we go.
this is a question.
Hardpoint identified.
This is a broad issue. And these are some of the most vulnerable people in North America. Canadians are vulnerable. There are limits.
Hardpoint is secured.
Canadians are hurting.
Hardpoint
Canada
active.
cannot accept everything. And have the Americans. The Safe Harbor Agreement.
Jackie, give us more.
We will send back.
We need more of them.
We got the lead. Now hold it.
Tributary to the origin
Muscles
of
have the
the
hard
Costa. We can't
This
say
shit ain't
we're
working.
welcome
We've
the
lost the
Haitians,
advantage.
but tough luck to translators. Don't everybody to be the same for everyone.
Yeah, no for everybody.
Sensitive to this because I often meet with Haitian representatives. Easier to integrate to Quebec. If Quebec is
Hardpoint
able
located.
financially to welcome them, then I'm sympathetic, but the rules have to be applied, and Quebec's welcome capacity is
Guess I chose the wrong people for the job. My bad.
Damn.
Send them back because they are in a safer country, i.e. the U.S. Mr. Secretary.
more.
It's a
We
question.
want more. Jackie wants more.
I never forget a face. Immigration, that is something important to us. We want immigration levels that are in line with our needs. But if yes, we need to take in people, but if we cannot accept people, well, we don't want them to have a bad life here in Canada and Quebec. So relocation would have to
Oh, Jag Meat Sing, you're an idiot.
The specific question.
Here we go.
The question is,
Do we accept those people?
for the people crossing the border at Mecca, would they be welcome to Canada or not? Because we have the right to send them back under the Safer Country Agreement.
Unfortunately, they have to be returned because immigration has to follow the normal entry points. Quebecers are extremely generous and welcoming. They welcomed my wife, as Mr. Blanchet mentioned. But the Liberal government has abused Quebecers' generosity with an out-of-control immigration system.
Yep.
The population has grown 3 times faster than the number of new homes built. This has created a housing crisis in Quebec. They're at the breaking point.
Yep.
And the government of Quebec has been given the power to choose immigrants. That was under the Mulroney government that power was delegated to Quebec. So we need to have realistic numbers, realistic based on our
I need
housing
to jump in
capacity.
here. What Mr. Polyev is saying is that immigrants should be blamed for something that is really the fault of success of conservative and liberal governments who have not invested enough in our resources, who have not built enough housing, who have not welcomed people in the way that they should have been welcomed. This cannot be blamed on immigrants.
No, blame the government. They're the ones who allowed them in.
Quebec
They created
is
the
now
mess.
asking, given the number of asylum seekers in its territory, for $500 million.
Yeah, Jackie's the clown, chat.
That was the amount they asked for in 2020.
Remind the fugitives that
Mr.
action
Follett,
has
you'll
consequences.
Nice.
Hardpoint locked down. We're winning.
We
Keep
have
it
to
down.
work with the government of Quebec to fix the damage the Liberals caused with an out-of-control immigration system. And I also have to say that I reject the Century Initiative, which is a Liberal policy to balloon Canada's population to 100 million people. That's extreme. I think we should go back to immigration levels that are such that the population never grows faster than the number of
houses, jobs, or healthcare.
Would you give more money to Quebec? And more generally,
You're gonna win over the president with these
let's
lines.
have the increase.
Start with the second.
Hardpoint identified.
We need to have a cap on all types of immigration for a certain amount of time so that we can increase our capacity to welcome newcomers to Canada, including in housing, in training and language here in Quebec, and make sure that the social safety net can accept them. And in those circumstances,
Oh, fuck off.
Officer, the search would come down further, is that correct?
well, there are some challenges here.
Hardpoint is secure.
Temporary foreign workers, for example, and such distribution. The distribution of workers across Quebec, and there's a shortage of workers. But we will maintain the cap on immigration for certainly a couple of years, so that we can increase our ability.
Hostiles have the hardpoint. Hardpoint located.
Number of immigrants to Canada in general.
Hardpoint locked
Instead of
down.
answering the question yes or no, I would want to base our response on the fact. It is obvious that we need
Hardpoint is
immigration.
active.
When I
Hostiles
speak to
have captured
Quebec
the
farmers,
hardpoint.
tell me yes, we need immigrants to work on our farm. When I talk to small and medium businesses, they tell me that we need immigrants. The question is, what level of immigration? We would base our immigration levels on an expert panel to study our capacity.
Experts.
Yet we have
Oh yes. Remember those during
Hardpoint is
COVID?
secure.
a number.
COVID experts, immigration
I do not want
experts.
to fall into the trap of fear-mongering or blaming
Oh,
immigrants
boy.
for things. We need a fact-based, needs-based approach.
Hostiles have the hardpoint.
Temporary foreign workers
Hardpoint locked
are
down.
temporary. They're a different category for students. Are a separate category and are essential for our post-secondary establishments in Quebec and in Canada. Unfortunately, it's being used as a referendum to get asylum
Hostiles have captured the
or
hardpoint.
and so on and so forth.
Go ask Rachel Gilmore what to do about immigration.
We don't want to get
Rachel,
those from the work
we
because
cut
we
it?
simply need people.
What should we
Asylum
do,
should
Rachel
be people who
Gilmore?
are in distress that we need to welcome based on our welcome capacity. We are not currently in Quebec able to welcome as many people as what its
Hardpoint
targets
is
are.
secure.
And one clear element, the federal parliament, with a bloc Quebecois initiative, decided to consult provinces within 100 days to determine how many immigrants are being welcomed. No one can decide, apart from Quebec, how much Quebec can
Hardpoint located.
accept and welcome.
Another rare moment where I
Quebec
agree
doesn't
with
even
your
look
position.
like Quebec anymore. I live here. It's wild. Go to Montreal.
I recognize that properties
Hostiles have the hardpoint.
restrict the use of workers' rights by major corporations.
Fuck.
Because students want no immigrants in Canada. Century Doug Barton, our recruiters, said that they're not taking into account the needs of Quebec and want to
Archangel,
cover
go
the
ahead.
Central Initiative and 100 million
Hardpoint locked
people.
down.
Is now one of Mr.
We're
Carney's
French Canadians
close
over here. We're not the Middle
advisors.
East.
On a different subject now. Would you say that the immigration system in Canada is going off the rails? And what has gone off the rails in the last several years?
The system isn't working. Especially
Hardpoint
after the
identified.
pandemic.
Using
Our
Archangel.
population has gone up, I think, at about 3%
Hardpoint
per year
active.
because of immigration.
Mm.
That's why
Hardpoint is secure.
we need to have a cap for a certain period of time. And I'd like to say that Canadians, Quebecers, and all Canadians, they want to welcome immigrants. There's no problem with Canadians' attitudes
Hostiles
here
have
at
captured the
all.
hardpoint.
It's right responsibility
of all of us are
Hardpoint
trying
locked down.
to increase our capacity to
Why
take
are
care
there
of this.
so many immigrants? People are having kids. 1.3 births per woman in Canada. That is the standard rate of water.
Asylum seekers.
This is why they bring
Coming to
newcomers
Canada.
here. We're not having kids.
At
That's
least
why
4 years to get
we're relying on immigration.
Hardpoint
If
located.
it's
Hardpoint
then
is
they
secure.
can process
Hostiles have captured the hardpoint.
and then
Hardpoint
take
locked
into
down.
account the functionality that becomes temporary.
Hardpoint is
spoke
active.
with
Hostiles have
federal
the
public
hardpoint.
servants.
Hardpoint
The lack of resources. There aren't enough workers to manage all the files that are coming in. It's unthinkable that people have to wait 3 years for an answer. But it's that not the thing.
They just come over illegally.
So we need to have more
Forget
Hardpoint
paperwork.
locked down.
Just come here illegally. They don't care.
people to make decisions, or at the very least provide an answer, because it is entirely unacceptable that we have people waiting so long. Mr. Koyev,
Oh, here we go.
if the top is obvious,
Hold the line, Crimson. This is ours to lose.
Look, it's our efficiency. By spreading out focus asylum seekers, many,
Hardpoint
that's
identified.
slowing things down. We can reduce processing times by getting rid of the bogus claimants. And when people are forum shopping when they've been to other places, that also slows things down. And there should be severe, genuinely. My point of view is that if someone's in danger in their country of origin, they should be able to decide to come to Canada. But if they're not refugees, for example, we've seen a situation in Mexico where people came here without
Hardpoint
ever
is secure.
needing to be asylum, and that causes a bottleneck in the system. And so what we're going to do is ensure that genuine refugees can come here and have their lives saved through the generosity of
how do you separate the real ones from the non-real ones?
Hostiles have the hardpoint. Hardpoint located.
And Mexico was one of the causes in the problem. So by eliminating that source, and also
Look at the immigration poll I just put
Hardpoint is
out.
active.
99% yes.
it's inhumane.
Fuck.
It's an agreement for some listeners. And that's an indication that there is a problem with productivity in that department. That takes resources, but it's also a question of productivity.
Refugees on welfare. They never prosperity.
Kindness, of course.
50% of Syrian refugees are still on welfare 5 years after coming to Canada. 50%.
In a few weeks.
We're being
Hostile
bullied.
LCR drop
And so
detected.
cannot succeed at this
They never
rate.
stood a chance.
Yeah.
Proceed to
That's
exit.
why there's wrong with just 1 year as a refugee.
Come to
You need to be
Canada
deported.
and they're lost because
If
they're
you cannot
just
provide value in Canada, you need to be deported. We don't need welfare recipients. We have enough of that here in Canada.
We need to be, as you said, we need to be neutral. We need to act
I want productive immigrants.
way.
I want entrepreneurs. I want smart people. Not welfare recipients.
talk about 2 other files.
I want immigrants who are going to come here and start businesses.
and Gaza.
Be entrepreneurs. For Canada. I don't want the welfare recipients. They provide zero value. Zero.
Or not. I'll give you some figures here. $2.1 billion is being given to Ukraine currently. That's a large amount of money for Canada. Ethiopia also. Haiti. There's a long list of other countries that we could have put up on the board.
Here we go.
Korea,
Cut it
you've
off.
said that we need to cut international aid.
Yes.
What would you cut? Ukraine, Ethiopia, Haiti? No.
I would start by cutting off China. The Liberal government gave $250 million to the Chinese Infrastructure Bank in order to build pipelines, highways, and other infrastructure to promote the expansion of Beijing's empire. I don't think that's a good use of taxpayer money. Also, we saw UNRWA, the organization in the Gaza Strip that took part, or whose employees took part in the attacks of
Yeah, we
September
funded
7th.
terrorists.
So I don't think we should be funding that type of activity either. The aid we give should be directly to people in need and not through bureaucracies, multinational bureaucracies and
Let's talk about
terrorists.
Gaza.
What about all the
Currently,
money that the
Dr.
Canadian
Borders
government sends
just today
for like woke programs
said that
in
the
other
situation
countries
is worse
to
than
promote
ever.
gender ideology? Billions of dollars.
They-
Cut that too.
So if you cut UNRWA, which might be an imperfect organization, but if you cut aid to them, how can Canada help Palestinians?
With not-for-profit groups, NGOs that will deliver the services directly to
The
Gazans
only group.
on the ground,
I'd like to
because it's a waste of money when the money that's not even getting to the people.
I will start by saying if there's anyone in an organization with a problem, then yes, that should be investigated. But what you said about UNRWA was disgusting. This is the only organization that is helping out people on the ground. And you painted the entire organization with the same brush, calling it a terrorist organization. That's unacceptable.
Hardpoint.
That's hateful.
Work
And
quick and clean.
entirely
No,
inappropriate.
you're not even allowed in America.
On the
You're not
subject
even.
of
You're a
Palestinians,
Hostiles
terrorist.
captured the
Jackie.
hardpoint.
Jackie's a terrorist.
Are in a situation.
Oh, them fucking guns. God, fuck's sakes.
We need to have all the hostages returned, and we need to resume humanitarian aid to Gaza. And at this time, $100 million from the government of Canada that is ready to be provided in
Fuck off.
humanitarian aid to Gaza with organizations that are working there, and that's key. And I agree with Mr. Singh.
Hardpoint is secure.
There are only a couple of groups that are working in Gaza right now.
It's a very unique situation.
Hardpoint identified.
In Canada and in Quebec, the Jewish community is victims of radical
Hostile care package
Islamists.
inbound. Hardpoint active.
Palestinians. Victims of terrible violence from the Israeli regime. We have to help people in distress. There and elsewhere, it's the best way to have international aid. There is not no trick. We need to allow people to live happily where they live. And Palestine will not become Mar-a-Lago for Americans that just want to chill on the coast.
The lead is on.
Let's see where the money goes. We want to see how much money is taken by Hamas. It's maybe less now, but it was huge in the past. A lot of money was taken from the Palestinians. We've taken out Palestinians.
national aid. So the people on this side.
Fuck!
Do you have an amount in your mind of how much
Hardpoint located.
We're going to target waste in all programs. We will audit to
Fuck you.
identify examples like
Hardpoint is
UNRWA
active.
when they used
Hostile at the hardpoint.
funds for Hamas. We're also going to find
What the fuck?
international waste because
That's the money we spend on everything.
Hardpoint is secure.
the decision is to protect Canadian taxpayers. We all agree that there's a lot of suffering here in Canada, and Canadians can't afford to pay their bills. So we need to find savings to reduce the cost of living here in Canada.
I would like to come back
And
to
we need to look at all departments in order to find those savings and protect affordability. Leave the house!
Hardpoint identified.
Mr. Carney, why don't you just call things as they are? This is a genocide.
Hostiles captured the
Israel
hardpoint.
do deserve peace and
Enemy
security.
UAV
People in
inbound.
Palestine as well. What's going on
active.
right now is
Hostile counter UAV established above. Hardpoint
The
locked down.
situation in Gaza, in the Middle East, is horrible. But
it's a genocide.
I never use that word in a
Hostiles have the hardpoint.
But it's a matter of facts.
That was Mr. Carney's response. I think we've understood.
Carney weaseling his
Your
way
question,
out.
Mr. Singh.
Like
Now,
a snake.
well, we're moving on to the next theme, identity and sovereignty.
Here we go.
It'd be good to put flags out in our balconies
to show our Canadian pride. I was surprised to see how proud people were. We're Canadian.
Hardpoint located.
We will not be Americans. I think we're going to be more united. I think I haven't seen this in a long time. So, yes,
Hardpoint
we've
is
all
active.
seen this across Canada.
Hostiles have captured the hardpoint.
All commentators have seen this. There is a wave of patriotism in Canada, but we've also seen deep divisions in the West. Alberta says it may separate, and it gives 6 months to the next Prime Minister to meet its requests. Otherwise, there could be a crisis of national unity that's unprecedented. In Quebec, the Parti Québécois is nearing power
falling
and
behind,
is promising a
Crimson.
referendum during your term if possible. At the end of the day,
Hardpoint is secure.
are we not as divided as the U.S.? We're very divided. We'll do a Kenny's ship
Taking the
budget
lead.
first.
Stay on task.
Unfortunately,
Hardpoint
yes, there are
identified.
divisions. All across Canada, all kinds of divisions. And I think that we've had a federal government that has divided
Hostiles have the
everyone, pitting regions against one another and various groups against one another. That's wokeness. Social classes pitted against one another. We need to unite
Hostiles reclaim the
Canadians.
lead.
We need to unite around our common identity that includes the French language,
Enemy
our
UAV
English language,
inbound.
our military,
requesting
the
watchdog
promise
helo on my
of
grid.
Canada that
Net call.
anyone who
Sleeper
works
agent
hard can
detected.
have a great life and if
Hardpoint locked down.
saves you. Just for me.
Is there not
Advantage.
division
Now
in
hold
Canada?
it.
When I travel throughout the country, I observe great need want to defend our country.
Fuck off.
We don't want to become the gatekeepers. They want to protect what is dear to our hearts.
Your assault pack has been destroyed.
When I talk to people about identity, people tell me our identity is taking care of one another. We have programs for that. For example, our healthcare system. We need to protect these systems and strengthen them, not cut
Hostiles
them.
have captured the hardpoint.
Now is the time to bring people together to get things done with our solidarity.
Thank you. Mr. Bullshit.
I think that
Hardpoint
people
locked down.
confuse
Hostiles have the hardpoint.
some people think that all Canadians should follow one single line behind the federal government, and so we only have one economy. Mr. Trump's fear, or rather the threat of Mr. Trump, has to be taken seriously, but